So I want to explain why we really fear the newfangled leftist policies. I'm here to explain not why I am right, just why conservatives are getting hyper and shocked about these not at all new leftist ideas that talk about fundamentally changing America. Those are very scary ideas to us. The ideas aren't new because ever since the Soviet Union was created, or probably well before that, the desire to fundamentally change America has been around. I totally believe that there are folks who identify with the Democrat Party for a lot of good reasons, or even are liberal for a lot of good reasons. I get it. They're for everyone. They want to help, and they want to help any way that they can. It's super noble and really big-hearted is what it is. Again, I don't think there's anything wrong with fighting for injustice. The problem with our liberal politicians is that when they see an issue and they try to help, often they make the problem worse.
But seriously, what are we doing to those we seek to help? Not too long ago, a judge called me here in Los Angeles. He told me that a young woman who'd come before him for a divorce. She had 6 children, was pregnant with her 7th. Under his questioning, she revealed her husband was a laborer earning $250 a month. She wanted the divorce to get an $80 raise. She's eligible for $330 a month in the Aid to Dependent Children program. She got the idea from 2 women in her neighborhood who'd already done that very thing. Yet any time you and I question the schemes of the do-gooders, we're denounced as being against their humanitarian goals. They say we're always against things, we're never for anything. Well, the trouble with our liberal friends is not that they're ignorant. It's just that they know so much that isn't so.
I don't know if this is proof, but it is pretty damning evidence against the well-meaning Democrat policies. As you know, they love to point out problems that need fixing, like homelessness and unemployment. So their policies usually work to help people in these situations. What we're looking at is unemployment in Democrat versus Republican-run cities. At first glance, it looks like they're both improving. The unemployment rate goes down, it seems. It also makes sense that Democrat cities have higher unemployment because they're also the more congested cities. This is an optical illusion because the timelines are reversed. These cities have been Democrat cities since the 80s, and these cities have been Republican cities since the 80s. So if we were to place the graph in order of year, it would look like this. On top of that, they are always campaigning that they need to fix income inequality, which we can work on through capitalist means, let's be honest. But studies show that cities with the worst income inequality gap are Democrat cities. It usually boils down to the education that we've had, which is either rural or suburban education, and we learned a lot. That it seems like the public school system in the city often leaves out, or at least they must teach it really differently, so that instead of being proud that every improvement and every turn towards more complete justice, every move that the United States has made towards more and more equal rights and opportunity were all thanks to the all-inclusive language of the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, and even our modern-day Bill of Rights. The Constitution is really why the Civil War took hundreds of thousands of lives before slavery was abolished. The Constitution is why women can finally vote. Thank God. The Constitution is why the Democrats' Jim Crow laws were abolished with the Civil Rights Act. So we all woke up yesterday to Lincoln being a racist jerk. And the black abolitionist, Frederick Douglass, he had his monument trashed. I'm not even sure these protesters know who he was, much less read any of his speeches. So history is on the blacklist. Math and correctly spoken English is unfair and caters to the elites. Cops are also terrible human beings who need to be eliminated. Creating groupthink, identity politics is the first step in taking over a country by way of a socialist, let's face it, Marxist revolution. Read the Communist Manifesto. I just read it tonight again, and it is scary how similar the language is to what we are hearing on the news daily. Marxists often refer to socialism as the first necessary phase on the way from capitalism to communism.
We actually do have an ideological frame. Myself and Alicia in particular are trained organizers. We are trained Marxists. We are super versed on sort of ideological theories.
There was so much evidence that had come pouring in from the former Soviet Union, from the Soviet Union at that point, and from Maoist China, of the absolutely devastating consequences of the doctrine, that it was impossible to be apologetic for it by that point in time. So the French intellectuals in particular just pulled off a sleight of hand and transformed Marxism into postmodern identity politics. And like we've seen the consequence of that. It's not good. It's a devolution into a kind of tribalism that will tear us apart on the right and on the left and on the right.
We're going to meet a Soviet KGB defector named Yuri Bezmenov. He begins by telling us the first priority of communism:
to change the perception of reality of every American to such an extent that despite of the abundance of information, no one is able to come to sensible conclusions in the interests of defending themselves, their families, their community, and their country. It's a great brainwashing process which goes very slow, and it's divided in 4 basic stages. The first one being demoralization. It takes from 15 to 20 years to demoralize a nation. Why that many years? Because this is the minimum number of years which requires to educate one generation of students. Marxism-Leninism ideology is being pumped into the soft heads of at least 3 generations of American students without being challenged or counterbalanced by the basic values of Americanism, American patriotism. The demoralization process in the United States is basically completed already. Most of it is done by Americans to Americans, thanks to lack of moral standards. A person who was demoralized is unable to assess true information. The facts tell nothing to him. The next stage is destabilization. What matters is essentials: economy, foreign relations, defense systems.
You absolutely have to watch the interview with Bezmenov. It's over an hour long. I clipped it short so that you get the basic idea, but please do the responsible thing and check it out. So he's talking about what we've already seen in our schools. They want to undo history. They want to get to our children while they're young. Of course, they've been much more successful up to now in universities. He briefly mentions that the Marxists are waiting for the moment when a country is weakest, economically, relationally, in foreign relations, and in its defense. So let's look at the economy. What has been proven time and time again to make an economy boom? Tax cuts and deregulation, or as I like to call it, destrangulation of small businesses. These two things allow people to hire more people, pay them more money, which in turn allows people to invest or spend in the marketplace. It's not really rocket science. So I ask myself, why would a politician insist on higher taxes? To my way of thinking, it's simple. They want to control you through your paycheck, and they would rather you depend on the government than on your own resourcefulness, your own creativity, and your own, of course, your own determination to succeed. The second point of weakness that our KGB defector made was that Marxists are waiting for us to become the laughing stock of the world, which is where we pretty much were after 8 years of Obama. Nobody respected on the foreign front the United States. I've never seen a president in my lifetime say they were going to increase spending on the military just to protect us. Strength brings a country security. Remember the Japanese response after Pearl Harbor? What was it? I fear all we've done is wake up a sleeping giant and fill him with terrible resolve. Everyone knows that a leader is going to defend its citizens, but a great leader will do it without fighting. Any enemy who knows America has returned to being a sleeping giant won't dare poke the bear. They've been itching to do it for decades and waiting for the opportunity. So Donald Trump is defending America without fighting. I think his policies in these areas are wise and in the best interest of defending against our greatest enemy within our own borders, this Marxist ideology. Let's not stop there. Let's keep going until you know everything, okay? Stage 3. Stage 3 is going to sound familiar to you.
The next stage, of course, is crisis. It may take only up to 6 weeks to bring a country to the verge of crisis. And after crisis, with a violent change of power, structure, and economy, you have so-called the period of normalization. It may last indefinitely. Normalization is a cynical expression borrowed from Soviet propaganda. When the Soviet tanks moved into Czechoslovakia in '68, Comrade Brezhnev said, "Now the situation in brotherly Czechoslovakia is normalized." This is what will happen in the United States if you allow all these schmucks to bring the country to crisis, to promise people all kind of goodies and the paradise on earth, to destabilize your economy, to eliminate the principle of free market competition, and to put a big brother government in Washington, D.C.
So yeah, stage 3. Between the protests / riots, defunding the police, and watching citizens murder themselves, and small children who, so sad, no one mentions, and the pandemic, which has a 99.98% survival rate, shut down our cities, our economy, our livelihood, everything, diminished our hope to the point of increased suicide, a mass exodus from big cities to the suburbs, what broken marriages, lost friendships, and sold out gun stores. It's also incredible to hear what a crucial role all these Antifa and social justice warriors play in this game. It is a chess game, a brutal chess game that communists have been playing for decades. And it's not a joke.
Your leftists in United States, all these professors and all these beautiful civil rights defenders, they are instrumental in the process of the subversion only to destabilize the nation. When they get disillusioned, when they see that Marxist-Leninists come to power, obviously they get offended. They think that they will come to power. That will never happen, of course. They will be lined up against the wall and shot.
History, something the left hates. He cites the revolutions in Nicaragua, Grenada, Bangladesh and Afghanistan, where I think 3 times a more extreme Marxist came up behind the revolutionary before, murdered him. If you have a hard time believing me, you might want to consider how good a job they might have been doing on you during stage 1 and making sure that the facts have absolutely no effect on you, that you will inevitably think I'm crazy. I want to make sure this soaks into your skin, so I want to look at another man who knows what communism looks like. Alvarez escaped Cuba with his family when he was a kid. Ironically, his dad had escaped from Spain and took refuge in Cuba. So he's double informed on what it looks like in this, what it looks like to experience a socialist revolution. So in this video, he's talking about the far left, people who favor socialist policies and big government.
I'm speaking to you today because I have seen people like this before. I've seen movements like this before. I've seen ideas like this before. And I am here to tell you, we cannot let them take over our country. I heard the promises of Fidel Castro. Those 4 promises: spread the wealth, free education, free health care, defund the police, trust the socialist state more than your family and your community. They don't sound radical to my ears. They sound familiar. I may be a Cuban born, but I am 100% American. This is the greatest country in the world. And I said this before. If I gave away everything that I have today, it would not equal 1% of what I was given when I came to this great country of ours. The gift of freedom. Right now, it is up to us to decide our fate and to choose freedom over oppression. President Trump, he's fighting the forces of anarchy and communism. And here's what I've decided. My decision is very easy. I choose President Trump because I choose America. I choose freedom. I still hear my dad. There is no other place to go. Thank you, and may the good Lord bless America.
There's a saying, communism and socialism are the same thing. The only difference is the people choosing to give the totalitarian all his power. You can call socialism a democratic policy all you want, or democratic change, and you'd be right when the people naively choose it and vote for it.
We didn't believe it could happen to us. Us Venezuelans, Cubans warned us. And we're like, Venezuela, we know what freedom is like. That's not going to happen here. Yet it happened. And there's clearly a lot of people wanting to destroy the U.S.
This woman's words have stuck with me for a long time, ever since her video came out. I feel like Americans who subscribe to Marxist ideas have never left the country. I've been to Cuba twice, and the impact that too much government control has had on that country is devastating. I saved the best for last. She's a young Yugoslavian woman. She explains in eerie detail how the events in the United States are pretty much identical to what happened in Yugoslavia during the 90s.
The playbook they used to progress with their agenda was already tested in Nazi Germany. To establish National Socialism, you must first install hatred in people. In other words, you must create tribal or groupthink. In the next phase, you must start claiming that the cause of those inequalities is nothing but discrimination and hatred of one group towards another, And naturally, you must start screaming that those inequalities must be corrected by favoring the oppressed, discriminated group over the oppressor group. This brings me to present times, the year 2020, and to you, American people. All of a sudden, there is protesting, rioting, arson, murder, destruction of public and private property, and lots of people screaming how unbelievably racist and unjust America is. And a bunch of nice and caring people on TV are telling you how you should accept the violence and hatred against Americans because you deserve it. If you have paid attention to what happened in Yugoslavia, I hope you have realized by now that your true enemies are not your fellow Americans. The ones who are, they want you to hate each other and to kill each other, while they're taking away your constitutional rights, your freedoms, and your country. Although it is more than obvious that there are very well organized groups used as tools to install and amplify hate and to create division between Americans. Of course, there are violent terrorist organizations and they must be removed as well. The real and extremely dangerous enemies of American people are the elected officials in your government, in your states, in your courts.
So I urge you to stop thinking that everyone is happy with America, that we have no enemies, and that there's no way on earth anyone would try to subvert America. It's already been done. And we're watching them scramble to complete all the stages before Election Day.